Hello. Today we're going to create a new document using Adobe InDesign. But first, I'd like to have the assignment sheet open so I can have the technical specifications on hand when setting this up. So we're looking at the project here. The technical specification for this is going to be document size is 8.5 by 11, which is just a standard size letterhead page. The margins are going to be very different than what you're used to in a Microsoft Word document or a Google Doc. We're going to use a margins of 0.125 of an inch and then 0.125 of a bleed. This is actually another thing that's very different than a regular document. And then we're going to tell it to do non-facing pages, and I'll talk about that in just a second. So if you have InDesign open, there's the general dialog box that opens up when you open up a new document or open up the application. We're simply going to say create new, and then a dialog box opens up, and it has all these settings. There's a number of templates that could be used, particularly if you're designing web devices or mobile devices. And then there's some standard sizes for print, letterhead, which is a common size. But we're going to actually do a couple of custom things for the settings. So oftentimes you want to make sure that your units are in inches. Picas is a very specific design measurement, but we're not going to approach that in this project. There's 8.5 by 11 right here. And the orientation is vertical or portrait, so that means it's going to be 8.5 by 11. If you want a landscape, just simply push the button. This is the facing pages button. If you have this checked, that means the pages are going to, a left and right page will sit side by side to each other, similar to a magazine or a textbook. So this is how designs are laid out for a publication. But we're going to leave it unchecked today. We're going to, later we're going to talk about columns and why we have columns. But today we're going to change our margins to 0.125 of an inch. That is an eighth of an inch, so it's a very small measurement. And we're going to change our bleed, which is right down here, which is 0.125, and which is usually a standard bleed for most documents that are being worked on. So we'll just leave that at 0.125. And then we're going to say create. So when we create the document, here we are. We have our one-page document. I'm going to zoom in just a little bit. The inside magenta line, that is your margin. And the outside line is right here, is the red one is your bleed. And then the one in the middle, that's your document. So you can see here, has a full page. There's an 8.5 by 11 document. There's a tiny little margin here. This is very helpful to have the margin here, so it tells you how close you can go to the edge without losing an image or a piece of text. And then later I'll demonstrate what the bleed is for. So now that you have your new document, it's time to save it. But first I'd like to go back to the research or your assignment document, because there's a very particular way I like you to save your file. And this talks about organizing your files in a very hierarchical manner. If you notice here, I have a file name here. It's basically kind of identifies the class, the project name, or the project that you're working on, and then the last name, first name of everybody. So it's easy to way for to organize hundreds of files by the end of the quarter by knowing what project and what class it's from. So simply go back to your InDesign document, say save. At this point, this is where I like to insert that information or just paste that information. And again, just change the criteria of your last name, first name. And then at this point, you can also tell it where to save in your hard drive. You might want to consider you can put it in your assignment folder, within apples, you can actually see the trail where you want to assign the folder to. But however you organize it, you will have everything appear in like alphabetical and numerical order. And you just simply hit save. This will come in handy later when we actually export our document as a PDF. So naming your file from the beginning helps you in the end when you complete your project. And there you go. Thanks.